little bit, but then when did you turn your attention to what's next?
Well, I mean, on Sunday, you get the 24-hour rule of celebrating it, and also, looking back on the last 2 years with the two seniors, and what a miracle finish, unbelievable way to end it at home, and now the guys were able to turn their attention onto this week and the task at hand in terms of playing in a tournament that a lot of teams, I think, are going into it with the thoughts that they can win some games and win the whole thing. And then you add to it us playing our rival across the state, and just adds a lot to it. So, really good lighter day yesterday in terms of preparation, and the next 2 days we'll get after it pretty good.
It's always good to go into the tournament on a high note, but the way you won that game, what kind of motivation does it give you going into the game?
Well, you talk about that the game's never over and you got to keep fighting to the end, but when you look at our program over the last couple of years, that's kind of what we've been all about. The resiliency, the mental toughness to keep fighting and scratching and clawing. I've never seen a game like that where you're down 7 points with 24 seconds left and you win it in regulation. But it just goes to show that the game is never over. You never know. And then we've won 3 out of our last 4 games. We've played pretty good, other than the 13-minute in the second half against the league champion. So our guys feel good, and at the same time they understand they're playing a team that's playing their best basketball this season right now too in Central Florida.
Speaking of that, you played them last on February 1st. What have you seen differently from them since that game?
They're shooting the ball much better. Colin Smith over the last 5 games has been dominant. Their pieces are starting to come together. And they, at times, and they did against us, will really spread you out and drive you and play off that drive. They're tremendous in transition, and they're mixing up their defenses on you. So you have to be really, really organized and disciplined on offense in order to attack the different defenses that they'll show.
One thing the team has demonstrated all season long, it has the belief it can get the job done no matter how many points behind. And when you see what happened Saturday night, that can resonate well beyond Saturday night because of what happened.
Right. Yeah. Again, we have a competitive group, and you can, you play a 31 game schedule, you can count on probably 2 fingers where we didn't compete. And to be honest with you, that's probably a pretty good percentage nowadays, and even in those games, we were more out of it, maybe mentally didn't compete as more so than physically, so, and those guys have a strong belief in themselves and in the group as a whole, and defensively we're good enough where even when we're struggling on offense, if we can keep it within striking distance, we've proven that we can, switch it on pretty quick offensively and knock down some threes. And more importantly, I think over the last 6 weeks, shots get up on the rim, we're able to get second chance opportunities, which has been a big change and one of the reasons that we've played so much better over the last 9 games or so.
Going back to the other day and looking at what Antoon did, go at 7 for 7 down the stretch, how important is it going to be between him and Mike Durr just to throw the ball in the post and know that the ball could go in at any time?
It's a good luxury to have in this day and age, to have guys that can score for you in the post, and both guys have proven to be able to step out to 15, 17 feet if they're not guarded or if they're playing off them and be able to knock down shots. So we got to keep going in. And the other thing that those guys have done, as I mentioned earlier, they've been really good on the offensive glass. We're a hard penetrating team, so we get rotations on defense, and they've been able to get better throughout the year of getting some space in order to get some offensive rebounds. But throwing the ball into the post, if you look at our offensive efficiency over the last 5 weeks, has really added to it.
And that's kind of been something you guys have maybe changed. You guys were shooting a lot from the 3, then went inside. When did you guys start making that a point of emphasis?
It was probably six or seven games ago that we just felt that we did it for multiple reasons. One, that we felt those guys were getting to the point where their efficiency around the basket was improved. The other thing was we just felt that the other team's bigs weren't having to exert any energy on the defensive end. They were saving everything on offense. So we had to go after them a little bit. And you know what always happens when big guys shoot shots around the basket, every time they miss, everybody's like, oh, God, he missed, you know, because they think, well, it's close. But they're getting banged, they're getting knocked, and you never see the physicality that needs to get the ball. But both those guys' shooting percentages is high enough that when our perimeter guys get the ball, we have to look inside.
Coach, last year in the first round of the tournament, we ran into a hot shooting UConn. What lesson do you have to take from that game going into this one?
Well, you know, we're playing a team that's shooting their best of the season right now. You have to be on three-point shooters' toes when they catch the ball. You know, you cannot give up open shots in the tournament. You know, there was a 7-minute stretch in that game where our defense, and it was more based in transition, you know, giving open threes up in transition. And we lost Vital a couple of times in the half court. But we have to do a really good job. You know, again, they're starting a smaller lineup than they were when we played them in the last game. We got to do a really good job of being on those guys when they catch the ball.
With the top 3 teams in the league, you've shown that you can be called and hang with them. In order to get where you want to go, you're going to have to win 4 games in 4 days. How difficult of a task is it? But someone's going to have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. And the biggest thing we always talk about when you enter the tournament, you can't worry about winning 4 games. You got to win the first one. And that's the most important. You don't have the opportunity to play Cincinnati in the second round unless you take care of business in the first round. So our point of emphasis is always on that first game. You know, there's a theory that the second game is a little easier because you've already played and the other team hasn't. I'd like to try to test that.
This might be, you know, maybe the last time we get to see you in this setting before the tournament. You know, just kind of a general update on how Alexis Yetna's recovery has gone.
Well, I think, you know, him and Greg and Zach have done a good job of posting some stuff. And I think if you saw the picture last week, his body is remarkably different than it was before. He's done a great job in the weight room in terms of putting on upper body strength. The legs are getting stronger. He's able to do some stationary shooting now, able to do underwater treadmill, so he's running. So the progress is really good. Probably have a little more of an update in terms of when he'll be able to do more court activity. Probably in 3 weeks, I think is the goal. The end of March is what we're looking at. And then once that starts going, then it's all based on how he's feeling. But as of right now, the progress is really good. Really good.
What's the season been like for you? I mean, you've faced challenges before as a coach, of course, but here you lose your big man about 48 hours before the season tips off. So what's the season? How do you characterize this season from your standpoint?
You know, the biggest challenge is because of that loss and the loss of May and Kerr, which sometimes we forget about. And the challenge there is they both kind of played the same position. So going into the season, we had 6 different options at the 4 and the 5, and then within a week we had 1. You know, and then we had to make adjustments, move different guys all over the place. So the biggest challenge for us has been just the consistency. And again, it's a legitimate reason, but we don't like to make excuses for it, you know. But for me, the ability to face that adversity and stick together and keep fighting together has been impressive. It's been impressive. Again, you got to be able to take a step back. We've won 38 games over the last 2 years. That's been a long time coming since that's happened. What's incredible is, you know, as I said the other night, we were 1 game off the pace in the league that we were last year. And there was a different level of evaluation at the end, which is understandable. But that's what those 2 guys and that's what this group of players have done. there's different expectations now, and that's good. That's good. That shows the mark of the program progressing and moving forward. You guys know me well enough to be honest. Has it been frustrating at times? Yes. And even, one of the players said it in a meeting the other day is, last year we were down in a lot of games and kind of fought back, but didn't win those games. This year we've been up in some games and haven't been able to hold a lead. So the result's the same, it's just a completely different path to getting there, and sometimes it's a little more frustrating. But in the big picture, if you can take a step back and say, last year we weren't able to outplay those teams in any stretch, you know what I mean? And so we've taken a step forward, there's no doubt about it. Now we just got to get everybody on the court, we got to keep getting better. We got to improve in some key areas, and if we do that, then we'll be able to take another step.